What a beautiful day, huh? It's warming up already, though. Let's see who comes in here. Let's see how algorithm flows through here. Is the algorithm going to be kind today? We shall see. We shall see. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Salute to my people. Salute to freedom marchers, freedom lovers, freedom family, freedom fighters. Snapzilla gorillas in the building, hitting y'all upside the head with this morning paper. How's everybody doing today? Doing this will be a quick live stream. Not going to be long. Quick ruck before I start my day, before I get back to work. Started around, I don't know, 4:30 this morning. Started working around 4:30. Hit my workout. You know what I'm saying? Then I'll be back at him. Thought I'd drop this live stream on you guys, man, because I was listening to the Jimmy Dore show this morning while I was doing my Muay Thai heavy bag routine. And he had this nurse on there. And I was interested. And if you guys don't know who Jimmy Dore is a comedian who is more like a conspiracy theorist comedian along the same lines of a George Carlin. You know, because George Carlin was that dude right there, one of the best comedians. Anyway, now Jimmy Dore is not as funny as George Carlin to me, but you know he be talking some real shit on the show. Anyway, he had a nurse on there, uh, and I was interested in this conversation because she was talking about the COVID-19 treatment, right? And all that good stuff. And I was like, hey, you know, and I don't know who this nurse is. I never seen her before, but apparently she started an organization to kind of shed light on how how big pharma and the hospital system puts profit over the health of their patients. Which, I already knew that, right? I already knew that. You know, those of you who follow me know that I know that, and you guys know it as well, most likely. And this is not nothing new, right? And so that's why the idea of free healthcare in this country being ran by the same motherfuckers that run the healthcare system. So y'all think that if we get free healthcare, that they'll run the healthcare system differently? No, it'll just be less competition and less service, right? They won't really give a shit about their patients. They can do whatever they want, right? You put the government in full control of the healthcare system, then the corporate welfare recipients, the corporatists that already run the healthcare system, will get a further grip on the healthcare system. See, y'all think that if we get free healthcare, that'll make the world better. Anyway, she was talking about COVID-19 treatment. And, you know, the things that she was talking about reminded me of the things that I said back in 2020 when COVID first hit the United States, right? Salute to Miss Sunshine in the building. Salute to the beautiful Miss Sunshine. How you doing this morning, Queen? Thank you for dropping that $10 super chat on your boy. I appreciate you so much. Make sure y'all hit the like button. I know it's been a minute since I, you know, did a live stream or came and holler at y'all guys, but, sometimes you need to pull away a little bit. And I wasn't going to do a live stream today, but I felt like this was important to talk about. And listen, Miss Sunshine was there when I was telling y'all about the treatment they were giving COVID-19 patients and the profit, the money they were making, right? So they were getting paid to treat COVID-19 patients, but not treat them in the way that would be helpful to the patients, right? Not in the way that would see them better. Because the worse the patient was, right, the higher level of treatment the government needed. I mean, the patient needed, the more money these hospitals made from the government, right? From the government, which means from the people. So they were taking our money and paying these hospitals to essentially kill COVID 19, COVID 19 patients. The reason I put air quotes around COVID 19 is because most of these people did not have COVID. You have to understand that in the beginning, there was not a lot of testing available for COVID, right? So a lot of these doctors were allowed to diagnose people with COVID, even though they never tested positive for COVID, right? If you told them you had certain symptoms, they gave you COVID. This is what happened in the beginning and even further along, right? And so when the test finally came, uh, you you can understand the level of greed that also rose from this, right? Salute to Sassafras. Good morning to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Salute to Troll Slayer. Salute to the Troll Slayer in the building. Always coming through, man. Salute to you. I remember you, Troll Slayer. So, um, when the test finally came through, and you have to remember that the emperor of Operation Warp Speed, well, the emperor that initiated Operation Warp Speed, Donald Trump, was on a tear to get as many respirators to these hospitals as possible on the behest or at the behest of Anthony Fauci. You understand? Anthony Fauci was pushing the respirators. Why is that important? Well, salute to Epstein. Oh, good Lord. Funny as hell. Thank you for the gift, Epstein. So you have to understand that these. I'll salute to Sassafras for sending me a high five. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You have to understand what these respirators were. They were not tools for healing. They wanted to get these respirators to as many hospitals as possible and use them, in my opinion, just based on the information, based on what's available, based on the protocol that was given to these hospitals on how to treat people with COVID-19. They were used as weapons to kill. Okay. These respirators, they had to get as many of these weapons to the hospitals as possible. Yeah. That was the purpose of these respirators being pushed out. They wanted to give these doctors, these hospitals, the weapons to kill as many as people as possible. Because COVID, let me, what y'all need to understand about certain diseases, the deadliest diseases in the world don't spread very fast and very far, right? The diseases with the highest death rates don't go very far, right? You know why? Because they kill the people too fast. They incapacitate and kill the person that has it much too fast for it to spread as far as possible. COVID-19 is not very deadly. Okay, even though they made it in a lab, it's not very. They made it in a lab to weaponize it. They weaponized it in a lab. COVID-19, and they didn't weaponize it to kill that fast, right? They didn't. They didn't listen. They didn't design COVID-19 to have a high death rate. They didn't do that. They 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 made COVID-19 to be able to spread as far and wide as possible and kill some people, right? Naturally kills, because about 6% of the people that were diagnosed with COVID that died from COVID, 6% of the people that they say died from COVID actually died from COVID alone. 6%. That's it. So it wasn't designed to kill you at a high rate. The people. It wasn't. That's not what it was designed to do. It was designed to spread as far and wide as possible, so that they could, and to give you some, it makes you sick, right? It does a lot of things to you. It gives you fatigue, gives you the cough, all that good stuff. It could be debilitating for a few days for a healthy person like myself when I had it. It wasn't designed to kill you like that. And if it killed people, great. What it was designed to do, in my opinion, is to be able to spread as far and wide as possible so that they can hype it up and push the fear to get people to these hospitals. They wanted you to flood these hospitals so that they could get these weapons, these respirators, out and put you on that respirator. Put you on that respirator so that they can kill you. That's just my opinion. Based, why else would they do it? Why else would they tell the doctors to put people whose lungs actually work? So this is what they did. If they put you on a respirator because you know uh, you have low blood oxygen, they put you on a respirator. You have low blood oxygen, but your lungs are working. They would put you on that respirator and put the setting of the respirator on to where it forces air in your lungs, right? It forces it. It just doesn't deliver oxygen. So they put it on a setting where it doesn't just deliver oxygen. It also pushes. It also makes your lungs work, right? So if your lungs aren't working, you put it on the setting to allow air to flow in and out of your lungs because your lungs can't do it on its own, right? It forces air in there to expand your lungs and allow your lungs to take in the air and get that oxygen. Well, they were doing that when the lungs were working. So your lungs are working. They're forcing air in your lungs. And what did that do? It blew your damn lungs out. It blew these people's lungs out. Yes. So if they determine you need to be on that respirator, the only setting they put it on would force would have the respirator force air into your lungs and pop your damn lungs like a balloon. Didn't matter if your lungs worked or not. And that's what they did. This is what I was telling y'all in 2020 when a nurse came out. There was a different nurse, and this nurse came out. I actually shared her video on my live stream, right? Uh, she was telling people that they were doing these things. The doctors were killing people with these fucking respirators because they were forcing air into these people's lungs and blowing their fucking lungs out. Because if you had a COVID infection in your lungs, right, it did not stop your lungs from working. What it did was stop your hemoglobin. It would block the hemoglobin from uptaking the oxygen and carrying it throughout your body. But your lungs still work. But your lungs couldn't convert the air. It could not, the hemoglobin at in the blood at where your lungs taking the oxygen, it would not take the oxygen up. But your lungs were still working. Your lungs still worked. It just you couldn't convert, you couldn't get the oxygen in your hemoglobin. That was the problem with COVID. It didn't, you know what I'm saying? Your lungs are still goddamn working. All they needed to do was pump oxygen in to allow an optimal amount to get absorbed into your blood. They didn't have to force air in your lungs. This is what a nurse was saying. And she came out, they silenced her real quick. They shut her ass down. They started talking about her sex life. They they defamed her. They made her sound crazy, right? Because she was telling the truth about what these doctors were doing in these hospitals. Because the hospitals were making money on COVID deaths. Okay. So if a hospital accepted a patient, right, there were three different stages of pay this hospital would get if you had a certain level of treatment you needed, right? So if a COVID patient came in and you treated a COVID patient, they didn't really have any problems, you would get a certain amount. Country Boy said women don't trust women, so why should men trust them? Okay. Anyway, so um, if you just got treatment, right, regular ass treatment, you went there, they gave you a certain amount, the hospital. If you needed to go into the ICU, they gave you more money. And guess what? If you had to get on the respirator, they gave the hospital even more money. But does it stop there? Absolutely not. If they had a patient who died from COVID, if they died on the respirator, the hospital got even more money. So they got the most money from patients who, right? They got the most money from patients who died on the respirator from the government. Yeah. From, I think it was Medicare, Medicaid, whatever. Yeah. The government took our money and paid these hospitals to kill COVID patients. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know how they came out? They told you that if you left the house and you went to your grandma's house, you would kill your grandma. They tried to put that on you. Oh, if you leave the house, you gonna kill people. They would try to guilt trip you. Yeah, sure. I drink the bong water. Slamming. Yeah, sure. Sure. Salute to Miss Sunshine. I'm sorry to hear that about your grandmother. These people are diabolical. Sure, slamming. Yeah, I drank the bong water. Mm-hmm. And you drank the stupid juice. You understand? Don't blame me because I was aware. I'm right. Uh, 99% of the things that I told y'all about COVID back in 2020 turned out to be right. Not because I'm some type of soothsayer or prophet. No, because I listened and I read and I did my own research. You remember when they told you if you did research and fact checked the government narrative that you were against science, you're anti-science? Remember Anthony Frosty told you that he was science? If you didn't go with what Anthony Frosty said, who is basically a criminal, he came out and later. Didn't Anthony Frosty come out later and say that the the treatment with the respirators, it probably wasn't the best thing to do? He said that. Mm-hmm. Anthony Frosty said that himself, that the treatment with the respirators were not The good thing to do. The respirators killed more people than COVID did. They were pushing these respirators all over the place. Remember that? Oh, sure. He saved millions from AIDS. Sure. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Tell that to the people that died from NVT that had AIDS. Sure, pal. I hope you're being Cindy. You must be being sarcastic. I'll take that as sarcasm. But Anthony Frosty, you see, he's not the only criminal that is guilty of these crimes. He's just the face, right? You'll never know who the true top dog criminal is. Yes, 30K to put them on the machine, Miss Sunshine. And I think it was $47,000 if they died, something like that. Over $40,000 if a patient died on that respirator if they had COVID. Next thing you know, they're coming out saying, even if you die and it's not directly from COVID, if you die and you have COVID, even if you die from something else, they called that a COVID death. Yeah. You understand? If you die with COVID, they called it a COVID death, even if you die from something else. Miss Sunshine says she had to threaten to sue the hospital if they lied on her death certificate. Crazy work. So did they end up not calling it a COVID death? AIDS was a hoax. Absolutely. 9 times out of 10, these diseases that you're telling y'all about that are killing these epidemics, right, are man-made, and they use it to put you on this treatment to treat the disease they created. Do you know what that means? They create these diseases, and then they put you on these treatments to treat the disease, to keep the disease going, right? They're not trying to heal you. They're trying to have you live with the disease for as long as possible so they can keep pumping these medications into you, right? Reduce your quality of life, keep you dependent on the system. This is what they do. So you get on AIDS, right? You get AIDS and they HIV, and they put you on this huge cocktail to treat the disease, not to heal you. Miss Sunshine says she died from abuse and neglect in a nursing home. The respirator finished her off. I'm sorry to hear that, Sunshine. I'm sorry to hear that. Crazy work. These people are fucking evil. Evil. The definition of it. They put you on these medications to treat the disease, keep the disease alive and well, but to keep it from completely overtaking you. But every now and then, you will get sick, go to the hospital. You have to stay there for a couple of days, get some treatment, and they get paid by the government, right? They get paid by Big Pharma, and they use our money to do it. So y'all think that this is why I say this free healthcare, universal healthcare is bullshit because they already use our money to run the healthcare system. Y'all know that, right? A lot of these health organizations, these government health organizations, well, they are mostly funded by private healthcare corporatists, big pharma corporatists. They already pay. They pay for the majority of that so that they can make a healthy profit right? And the return is our money, our money. So imagine if we say, you know what, if we say, you know what, let's go ahead and have free universal health care. Free universal health care. You think that's going to be free? No, they're just going to raise the taxes, right? They're going to raise them. If you cut out private health care altogether and go with pure, unadulterated, universal health care that's ran by the government, you are going to get taxed like a motherfucker. Yeah, they'll tax the shit out of you. And guess who runs the healthcare system? You think the government runs the healthcare system? No, they just provide the infrastructure for the corporate welfare recipients to run the healthcare system. What made black men vulnerable to it? I don't know if we were. I don't know if we were vulnerable to it, Cindy. I think that was a lie they pushed to push fear because you understand a lot of this was psychosomatic. Salute to the lovely orange lily for you. How you doing this morning, Queen? A lot of the symptoms from this disease that people contracted was psychosomatic. Even people who didn't have it showed symptoms. Salute to Anarchy Television in the building. Flu was being called that lie. Yeah, flu, whatever. You knew many black people who died from it. Well, I don't. I don't know many black men that died from COVID. I don't myself, right? But that would be anecdotal, right? Now they say yes, they say it killed more black folks, but they need to get these black folks in these hospitals because understand that nurse that I told you all about, that nurse. Salute to you, Orange Leader, for you. I'm glad you're doing well. That nurse I was telling y'all about, the one they made sound crazy, the one that they told, the one that they tried to uh, discredit her, right? They did discredit her, and they went after. She worked in one of those hospitals that in a black neighborhood, in an impoverished black neighborhood. That's where she worked. So those black men that you say died were being killed by the respirators, not by COVID. 9 times out of 10. Well, I'll say, well, 6%, almost 9 times out of 10, right? Yeah, 9 times out of 10, yes. 9 times out of 10, they were being killed by them respirators or something else that had nothing to do with COVID. They were getting killed by the so-called treatment that was being pushed by the CDC and the government and Dr. Fraudstein. Salute the fly guillotine in the building. Miss Sunshine says it's interesting how all of a sudden the diseases out there are somehow used on us. If these are facts. Ban Eastern Star witches from hospitals. Man, we need to ban all kind of motherfuckers from hospitals. We need to go back to true health care. We need to go back to preventative health care, promoting healthy lifestyles. That's what we need to do. Orange Lily for you says, yes, my fiance's friend died like that. What, on the respirator? Most of these people died on respirators, or they died, you know, respirators. They died in these hospitals. Most people who died from COVID died in the hospitals. The nurse on Jimmy Dore will tell you that. I said that. Y'all know, y'all who was here in 2020 when I was telling you guys that people were being killed in hospitals, right? Because I followed up when that nurse said that they were killing these people. I did some research. I found another doctor who said the same thing. And that's how I knew that they were putting the respirators on the wrong setting. They had one setting. The CDC had one protocol for anybody that ended up on a respirator, whether their lungs worked or not. If your lungs work and they're forcing air in your lungs, they're going to blow your fucking lungs out. They knew that, and they knew COVID was not stopping people's lungs from working. COVID was just blocking the oxygen from getting taken up by your bloodstream. Period. Not stopping your lungs. It wasn't doing that. Your lungs were not stopped working. Miss Sunshine says, I remember a speaker came to my academy and claimed AIDS was a black disease. Yeah, just like they called it a gay disease and all this other shit. Full of shit. Yes, eat healthy, exercise, get sunshine, go outside, get some air. See, they wanted y'all to stay in the house. They wanted y'all to be scared. And they wanted y'all to, if you felt something, go to the fucking hospital. That's all they wanted you to do. They didn't want you to do anything else at all. It is terrible, flying guillotine. Miss Sunshine says, I remember, yeah, I read that. He worked in a prison. He did not want to go to the hospital. Did he end up going to the hospital? Or are you saying he died? Are you saying he died from COVID? Now, did some people die from COVID? Sure, but only 6%. And that was on the CDC website. And those masks made you breathe in carbon. Yes. Yes. It turned an open system into essentially a closed system. Yes. You were breathing back in carbon dioxide. And that's why people were getting Legionnaire's disease and all kind of silly shit. Especially older people. Oh, he got on the respirator and his head swelled? Man. Sorry to hear that. That's crazy. But that's what they do, man. That's what they do. And if you question it, then they appeal to the expert. They appeal to the profession. Oh, well, you're not a doctor. What do you know? Oh, are you a nurse? Are you a doctor? Right? Like somebody came here earlier and called me a doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be a doctor to know the truth about this shit. No, you don't. Miss Sunshine said the scanner to the forehead messed with your gland in your frontal region. I believe it. Anyway, y'all. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because what happened during COVID, you know, a lot of people like to brush it aside and act like it didn't happen, try to forget. No, we need to continue. I will continue to remind us what happened during COVID, what our government did, what Donald Trump did, all that shit. You know, they want that. It didn't work out like they wanted it to. And every time they try to introduce a new disease, it don't work out like they wanted it to. But they want us to forget so they can introduce it again, and then we'll forget exactly what happened. And that's just what it is. Out of here. I got to get ready to get back to work. But I appreciate you guys for coming through. Yes, no jab for me either, Orange Lily. I appreciate you. Much love. Like, share, subscribe, and let's keep marching forward.